I swear, every time I see that introduction, I want to cringe. I was just sharing with the ladies backstage that there are books in there that says it's publishing in August, which published last August. That is so pathetic. But I promise you, as a publisher, that is not how I work. So let's just put it this way. I am so proactive and on top of my stuff that people have to tell me stop texting me. I'm just kidding. But really, I when I work with you, I want to make sure that you feel supported. And you gotta be like, this girl is like trolling me everywhere. Yeah, I'm paying attention because I need to make sure that you get where you need to go very happily. Okay, so today's episode is all about ghostwriting, and I am excited because I've never done an episode like this. In fact, I have a general idea of what ghostwriting is. I really and truly could not tell you what the process looks like. Where do you even begin? And how do you even begin to look for a ghostwriter? So I'm excited to have two friends on today. One hails from Canada, and I met her through my awesome community, and we just absolutely clicked. And then the other is a fellow Outlier Project member. And again, once I see somebody is all up in the writing space, I need to meet them, period. So let's talk a bit about what's going on in guiding brilliant writers. I don't see any comments yet, so I am freaking out a little bit, and I do hope that LinkedIn realizes what it's done by messing up the events. Yes, I did just say that on live. LinkedIn, I love you, and I pay you $70 every month. So please make sure that the events link works. Thanks. All right, so let's go. What's coming for guiding brilliant writers? Well, September we have Men, Money, and Mental Health that is launching. We're hoping to bring that launch up from the end to mid September. And look out for a very cool promo post tomorrow because we now have matching gear that's going to come out, tees and hoodies, with the launch of that book. And the awesome illustration is by none other than the esteemed Trevor Martin himself, who is also a co author in the book. You want to tune in because the next few weeks you're going to be meeting all of the co authors in Men, Money, and Mental Health. And there will be a very special last episode with my husband and myself on. And yes, he is putting a chapter in here. All right, so let us now introduce and bring in Mary Kay and Jamie. Mary Kay hails from Canada, like I said, and Jamie comes to us from Chicago. And I have a little note here, so let me read that. Mary Kay helps nonfiction writers build and self-publish their book. She is an author as well. And Jamie is a business book ghostwriter with financial experience and does book coaching as well. All right, let's bring both ladies up at the same time. Hello, ladies, and how are you?
Awesome. Thanks
Hello,
for
good
having
thanks.
us.
How are
Oh,
you?
I am glancing that way because I heard the door and my doggy's gone. Okay, that means my husband came home. I'm sorry. I'm like, did I lock him out? You must have keys. Anyway, this is real life and we are jiving. And you can see the shirt, The Guiding Brilliant Writers. My story is my legacy. And boy, are we going to have those life moments all tied up in the legacy. Anyway, thank you for joining me. Ghostwriting is a world that I know nothing about. And I just popped a question to you guys in the back. And I was really glad to hear your answer because I didn't know how I will feel that when the questions started coming in about it. And I'm sure that they would. So let's start with Mary Kay. Why don't you go ahead and take a few minutes to introduce yourselves to us? Introduce yourself to us.
Yeah, there's only one of me. Actually, I wish there were more of me because they could do other things. Hi, I'm Mary Kay. I'm a nonfiction book coach and a ghostwriter. I specialize in extracting knowledge from authors and helping them build a book that is useful and purposeful. I recently retired from the corporate world after almost 40 years, if you can believe it, for across 4 different industries, and the last 20 years were spent in IT in a bank. So we have a financial tie, Jamie.
Yes.
And what I was doing there was, writing communications, process optimization, risk management, and governance. So all those things I actually tie into what I do, either when I'm working as a book coach or when I'm working as a ghostwriter. And so my philosophy and my process um, brings together 3 main things: clarity before we write, structure before we write, and the art of subtraction all throughout the writing process. So that's a little bit about me. Oh, and I also love nature photography. That's where you'll find me, by the water with the ducks and the geese, or in the forest with the deer and the owls.
I love your content. Like somehow you take a picture of seals on a dock and have the most entertaining things to say about that one picture, and you draw in a lesson. I'm like, wow. So, of course, I consider myself a writer too. And
You are.
I've been doing this very long. It's just been a few
Yeah.
years. So, I learn every time I see a technique or maybe a personality of someone in their writing. And I so see Mary Kay's in hers. She just has this very, look at her. She has this presence about her that's just fun loving, but I am sure that she gets very serious when it comes to getting down to her work. Okay, thanks so much for introducing yourself.
Thanks for
Before
having me.
Yes, before we go to Jamie, I want to say hi to Lay in the audience, the drone gal, and to Christy Williams. I know that Tanya and Jackie, Stephen Ang, I know you guys are out there, and the LinkedIn comments, we have some problems posting them right now. So if you want to run over to YouTube, you can certainly go over there. If not, I'm acknowledging that I know you guys are here. Jamie, please go ahead and introduce yourself to us.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. And thanks for having me again, Nick. Mary Kay and I share a lot in common. This is our first time meeting. I also come from banking as well as other corporate backgrounds. But my corporate time, I actually spent working in corporate finance and operations. When I was in operations, I was a certified project manager. And so just like Mary Kay, I like to bring all of that to what I do now as well. So I spent several years doing that, left the corporate world, decided I wanted to start my own thing. And so I did that 180 out of finance when one of my friends was like, "You're really good at writing, you should try that." And I was like, I don't know the first thing to do with that, but let me see what I can do. And so started with copywriting, then moved into ghostwriting, had hired a coach and all of that. And so I like to bring all of that background of managing teams and managing processes, and especially in the space of focusing on business and leadership books, being able to kind of help translate certain ideas, insights, acronyms are big in the corporate world, to the page, and kind of be able to more seamlessly interact with those clients as well. But just like Mary Kay, it's so much more than just the writing. It's the interviews are so powerful, and how you structure it and how it all comes together, and capturing the author's voice and making the connections and helping them uncover all of those valuable insights and everything, and then ultimately translating that into the page in a way that isn't just good for the author, but mostly resonates with the reader, so the author can accomplish their goals.
Absolutely. And I just take my breaking anthologies mostly. I do publish for solo authors as well. And a lot of times they say, you write for the audience because it's the readers who needs to take value away. On my stigma breaking anthologies, I kind of say write for yourself, but I think that that's a little bit different in terms of when you figure you're doing a business book or leadership book. There are set um, bits of knowledge and lived experience that needs to be shared to bring the reader to a viable outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate this conversation because when I do work with my solo authors, I have a 30-year gold standard line editor who happens to be my executive remote producer as well backstage. And so she often works with them directly on their editing and story development. So by the time the book gets to me, that's all done, right? And so I am following through flow, and I am asking myself, if I took these steps they suggested, have I experienced this? Where did that put me? Did it put me in a similar situation to where they were, or did it put me in a completely different situation? This book even cater for that. And I keep going and I go. And again, when I think of leadership, I've never considered myself in that space. But I run a company and I, work with so many authors. So in a sense, I am. And when I think about the connections, I was a project manager for the last 10 years. So very transferable skill to what I'm doing as well. And I'm sure with Jamie it was. And then when I hear about both of you and in the corporate space, when you think of nonfiction, it's something that can be a bit dry if it's not written well. It could come across very, I told you so, or even academic, if you will, because one of the 5 books we're publishing is for a doctor in behavioral psychology, and that was a big thing with him with Leslie's editing. Please make sure I don't sound too clinical. So I'm going to ask each of you, have you ever faced a situation where you worked with a client whose voice was indeed very clinical, and you had to infuse the storytelling part? And I'm just curious, how did they accept the feedback? You want to go, Mary Kay?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first. So, yes, I have. And I worked with a scientist, and they think differently, like differently than the executives and subject matter experts that I'm used to talking to. So, the feedback was actually taken very well because I would present it in a logical manner, which is what a scientist wants to know. So, really, as ghostwriters and book coaches, we have to adapt a little bit enough to our client, to our author. So a lot of it was, okay, what jargon needs to stay in here for your audience, because some of them will be scientists in your field of work, and other people will be people outside, a little bit more layman, that might be interested in this topic as well. So it was really kind of like, let's take the inventory and look at everything one by one, just like a scientist would do. So a lot of adaptation. And I'll pass the mic to Jamie.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I haven't had necessarily a dry client per se, but to Mary Kay's point of, there's a lot of books that I work on that have technical things, like the employee ownership book that got published in April. Like, ESOPs are very technical in nature, and we wanted to make it accessible. And so it was paring down what type of language to use and things like that. And then in all cases, just like you mentioned, like, no matter what the book is, there needs to be stories aplentiful in there, because that's how you keep readers engaged. And to your point about business books can be preachy, one thing that I like to work with clients on at the beginning is, before we even start writing, is like intention setting. And part of that is, who exactly are you writing to? And like, don't give me like a group or a demographic, but give me like one person that you're writing to.
Yeah.
Because then it feels like, when you're talking to that person instead of a group, it feels less preachy in the writing, because it's like a coffee conversation on a couch rather than giving a lecture.
Now that is a big drill down, to actually ask them to speak to one individual. And even then, if you are familiar with the individual and or can follow some of their like content on social media, or even get introduced to him or them, I would think that would be even better, because now you get to know this person as well, and just the type of relationship they have and how that person may share. So my question to both of you then is this: when you faced something working with a client, I want to say, like, let's use a scientist, for example, that his work may not 100% be in your wheelhouse. Being in finance, being in corporate, that type of thing. what part does research play? How difficult is research to do? Um, how far do you have to go to back up this research? Like I'm digging right now, like I'm digging deep. I know. Whichever you want to take the question, go right on ahead.
I'm happy to let Mary Kay start since it was her client, but I have thoughts if she's still percolating.
Okay, I'll take it for sure. So I do a lot of research when I'm ghostwriting something, whether it's an article or whether it's a book. Now, I need to educate myself so I can focus on the client's voice and a little bit less on the subject matter when we're interviewing, right? So I want to back up my um, uh, interview skills with a little bit of knowledge and to know a little bit better what I'm listening for. And then I also do it for myself too, because it's very hard for me to write if I can't get into a flow of knowledge. Now, as far as citations and things are concerned, sure, there may be things that I'll find, but I'm always going to check with the client and say, okay, look, I found this, this, and this. Is this the most current? Is there anything else you have that needs to come in here? Did something just happen last week? Because I'm not in the industry and he probably or she gets a newsletter. What do we need to add? That's a little more of a final layer than the beginning. But when I'm interviewing the client, I'm listening for the way they talk. Do their eyes light up in a certain thing? Like, did they talk about their family? Is there a way to bring that in? Is there a lesson in there that's going to fit? Even with a scientific kind of a book, there might be. So I'm kind of the language police and the behavioral movement police because I like to interview my clients on video and record it if they're okay with that. And I will watch that video 100 times because I need to channel you. Like I
Right.
need to channel you through my fingers to the keyboard.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would echo that as well. I think sometimes actually when you don't have subject matter, now I know I write business and leadership books, and so I think that having a general knowledge is cool, but then I also think that sometimes it serves well to not know everything. Like the book about employee ownership, I learned a lot. Now you can ask different questions when you don't know the thing, because if you know the thing just as well as the author does, there's potential that you could have blind spots in what the reader needs to know. And so I think there's some research to be done to be familiar enough with it, but ultimately your author is the subject matter expert on it, and our job is to ask good questions to get to the bottom of that. And then and it's scoping out at the beginning too how much research they're expecting, so you don't have a misalignment of expectations later on. But even books that aren't research heavy, I like to ask the author ahead of time, like, what books do you really love, and like how do you envision that? And then I go and take a look at them and we talk about them, and like not content obviously, but styles and things like that, because we all know there's a million different ways you can write a book, and so that's a different sort of research that can go into it as well.
Wow, there is a ton of work behind this. And I want to thank you both
Yeah.
because I I'm sorry, that comment popped up there and just totally threw me. Luca, we'll talk about that next. I want to say thank you to Felipe as well as Meryl for being here. I know that they're also here. I'm getting private chats, guys, so I know that you're here. So thank you. And I'm sorry I can't see your comments, but we will go back after the show and answer all of your comments and questions. Please put your questions in there. This is your chance to pick Jamie's and Mary Kay's brain. They signed up for this. They don't mind. I'm sorry, I spoke for you guys. So
You don't mind.
That's okay.
think of all the back work that goes into this. And I want to thank you because I had a few questions I share with you guys, and we haven't even gone there, have we? It's just happening organically. Have you ever felt, if you are familiar with the subject matter, that you had to pull back because your thought processes are now assessing this as, I don't think this is right, or I say again, if you're right, you're right. If you say you're right, you're right. If you say you're wrong, you're wrong. But where can you lose yourself in the blur of the line of let's say your knowledge and theirs? Does that even happen?
I think it's possible, especially I've worked in the space that some of my authors have. And so like Mary Kay was saying, we listen to the recordings over and over and over and over again. And so for me at least, it's very easy for me to draw that line of what's mine, what versus what's theirs, because at that point, like, we're in character more or less to say. And so for me, it's easy to know, like, oh, this is my thought, not theirs. And it's really easy to overcome that. One, because it's like we're writing their book, right? This isn't a co-authorship or whatever. It's their book. So ultimately their thoughts, their personality, their essence needs to come through. And then another thing that like helps with that is ensuring alignment of fit at the beginning of the process. So like I posted the other day that I turn away more clients than I take on, because that's such an in-depth, big process, investment, all of that. Like we both need to make sure that we don't need to like necessarily content wise agree on everything, but we need a vibe, and we need to be like at least values aligned. And I like to write books for people that have a purpose, that they want to put something good out into the world. And so I think a lot of that gets covered early on, as long as you set a good foundation. I don't know if Mary Kay has other thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. And I echo all of that. And I think, the main thing for me is setting up that scope. And you'll recognize this, Nick, as a project manager when you're defining the scope and you're watching out for scope creep. So I could be the scope creep in a ghostwriting project, right? And so are we going to have to do a change request to bring in that language in, right? We'll have to discuss it, because I might have a question in there. I'll put tons of notes to draft in what I'm writing that says, is this my thought, or is this true? Did this come from you? And is there a way that you would say it better than I have? And again, going back to defining the scope, like when you're working with me, there's a lot of work we're going to do before any writing ever happens. We touched already on the reader, defining the reader. We're also going to figure out, okay, what's your goals as the author? Are you going to use this book for your business as an entry point to keynote speaking? Are you going to use it? Are you going to bring it to an interview because you're trying to break into an industry? So we're going to look at a whole bunch of things, which I'll call building blocks or elements. And what I like to do, and I think people enjoy it, is talk about it as a reverse storyboard, as if we're doing a screenplay. So we're going to find out, what's the ending? What do you want your reader to get out of it at the end? So that's one thing. Then we have your goals as the author. Then we have, okay, what's the transformation, the actual journey you want to take the reader through? So going back to structure, no one's going to see this structure except for me and the author. And it's that structure because the structure is going to help them uncover what they already have. And the structure gives a place to put it, and it's got to be something that's strong enough to carry it. So we'll have these elements. Now, there was one book that I did that we structured it one way first with all these elements, and then we tweaked the elements and we made a different structure. Because you can. Like once you know the elements, you can start moving things around. I mean, well, you can't see my big pantry over there. It's full of sticky notes. One of them is the reader journey for the book that I'm writing right now, the one that has to come out first, from my own book, not someone else's. So I hope I answered the question.
You did. And you know what? I love that you guys piggyback off of each other, but then also throw in there things that unique to your service as a ghostwriter.
Yeah.
Because while there is crossover, you both talk about the same thing, which is alignment. If you don't align, and in the first year of business last year, it's like, oh, every client comes to me, yes, I can do it. And now it's like, okay, I can't sign you for a year, so I'm gonna sit here and think right now about what you're proposing, and no, you cannot email me everything. We must talk face to face on
Yeah.
a personal level before we even start talking about what it is you want to do. Now, granted, I'm not even in the manuscript writing process of it, but I still have to represent this person in every possible way, especially in promoting at the end, right? So I even wonder now if a ghostwriter is probably someone that should have a general conversation with the promoter,
Yeah.
because there are aspects of the direction, right, that you would be able to share that perhaps, and I feel a lot of times people are busy as well. And that's why, not just that they don't think that they could write, and things like that, they're just busy. And so they hire a ghostwriter because they do not have time to sit there and write this book, right? So, wow, it really makes me think that's a conversation that a ghostwriter and a publisher should have.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I
Okay.
fully agree.
So, there are questions popping up in the from somebody we know. And so let's take a couple questions. Is there training exclusively for ghostwriters?
So not that I know of. I mean, there's obviously writing courses and creative nonfiction writing courses or memoir writing courses that a ghostwriter could benefit from taking if that's their genre. And but there might be something in the Alliance of Writers or some associations. So not that I know of, but there could be.
Oh,
Yeah, I haven't heard of explicit ones either, but how I learned since I did the 180 is I hired a coach. And so he had been a ghostwriter, and so he taught me his process, everything to know, reviews he would review the work, and I actually still work with him just because it's nice to have a second set of eyes on things. And so
Mhm.
our conversations are a lot different now, but still valuable nonetheless. But that's how I learned, was through hiring someone to teach me, mentor me, all of that stuff.
that's pretty interesting because I don't know if you guys or Jamie, you might know Bruce Shutan. He's also an outlier.
Yep.
And he was supposed to be on the show with us, but unfortunately he couldn't make it because he also is a ghostwriter. And I would have loved for him to be able to be here to share his perspective because he does different things. And his ghostwriting is actually more articles, less books. Um, so I would have loved to ask him if he too got any formal training or trained anyone to do it. So it's interesting the difference in what you both know that's out there. Maybe you guys should start like a university training people.
Ooh, I like it. I
Yeah.
like it. Thank you.
So let's see what Felipe is asking here. Felipe is asking, what is the biggest challenge for you as a ghostwriter? You want to take it, Jamie?
Yeah. Um, that's interesting. I think it often is a case by case basis, but I would say it's easy for anybody, right, to take some thoughts and put it on paper. What the challenging part is to capture the essence of the author, in my opinion. It's more than just, it's not taking a transcript and copying and pasting it into a document. Like, that's not going to make for a good book, but it's capturing their sentence structure. Do they talk staccato? Do they talk long and flowery? What sort of words do they use? What sort of words do they hate? You'd be surprised by the amount of like, no, do not use that word. Like, that's just as much. And how they frame things. And it's not just words and sentences, it's their viewpoints, it's all of that, it's their tone. And so I think that is the most challenging part. And that, like, I find the beginning of book projects go the slowest for me, until I get in a rhythm of capturing them, and then it picks up from there. But I think for me, at least, it's the most necessary part, which makes it the most challenging because you want to make sure you get it right. But every person is so different. And then, oh, by the way, like, we can't infuse our writing into their writing.
Wow, I'm loving this conversation. So much is coming out, and Felipe said, and he's right. A lot of really good information is being shared here right now. I believe he had also asked another question up there. I can't seem to scroll up and see it, but I think he was asking, What is the best part about it for you, or what's your favorite part? There we go. Do you have a favorite part, or do you just love the whole process?
I certainly do, but I don't want Mary Kate. I don't want to hog the mic. I'll just leave it at when they get the first draft of it, like not even the final draft, but the first draft of the first time they see their book on pages, even though it's not final, is like the most gratifying thing for me. And often it's just a really emotional experience for people to see their stories, their teachings in a book length format on paper. But all of it's fantastic.
I agree. All of it is fantastic. I think my favorite part, aside from what you said, Jamie, is like when I'm interviewing someone and I catch that glint and I ask them, is it okay if we dig in further? Because I just saw a reaction. And that's where the gold is. And then you get to write that. You get to tell the story. You get to bring in, your craft into their experience. And I mean, sometimes it's fascinating. Now, I've written more articles as a ghostwriter than books, but
Didn't know that.
it's like you live through that person. Like it's like vicarious living, and sometimes it's not great because there's some trauma or something in there.
Yeah, somebody asked me that question recently too, because I do so many stigma breaking anthologies, and we just did volume 2 of We Choose to Be More Than Our Diagnoses. And I am diagnosed bipolar, and I do take medication every day. But what it is like for me to read uh, this many stories,
Yeah.
and work one on one with them, because I meet each one, and I did it just today on a Zoom, and I read their chapter back to them, and we're working on it together. And sometimes it's more than just what I'm reading, because now once I've read it back to them, it's a whole other set of emotions.
Yeah.
Because now they're hearing it for the first time read to them. They're seeing the emotions that I'm feeling. I'm seeing their reaction to my emotions. And I guess that would make me ask the both of you next, how do you get past, how do you manage your mental health, right? One, in terms of deadlines, and because I just told you guys I'm doing 11 books over the next 11 months, and I'm going nuts. So between managing your, you know, mental health deadline wise, and also managing your mental health in terms of the content of what you're writing and how it may actually be affecting you.
So I think for me, it is really making sure that I put time in my calendar. Like if you look at my Calendly, you can only book me on Thursdays and Fridays. So that's number one, is making sure I've got time blocked
Yes.
where I'm not, because I have the tendency, I can take something and run with it and then I get burnt out. I mean, that's not the way we want to work. So that's one way. And the other ways are walking every morning, walking, water, and affirmations, really, and being in the present moment, mindfulness. I'm also a certified mindfulness teacher, so sometimes I need to remind myself to take my own advice.
Yeah, that's all good things there. I also walk, and I also finally this year got it together. And well, Calendly, Tuesday and Thursday mornings, Greenfield Beach. That's it. Done. What about
Yeah,
you, Jake?
yeah. I just adjusted my Calendly too, actually, because I thought I was blocked enough, and now I'm like, no, I need different meeting links. Like we have to chunk this together. So that's part of it. I think I don't work on memoirs anymore. I shouldn't say that. Memoirs are a vast genre, so they could be
Yeah.
related to and in the business and leadership field as well. But I have worked on other memoirs that aren't so adjacent to that, and so and there's deep stuff that is shared. And even in business and leadership books, it's all about storytelling, and the author needs to come through. And sometimes there's hard stories there as well, and that's when the listening to it over and over and over again can be heavy, and then putting it on the page and then editing it. And so I think like the way that we time block even outside of meetings is important for that, because I can't write a really deep, heavy story and then just switch to like my own writing or a different author and then just like flip the switch and turn it the other way. And so, like doing all the things that Mary Kay was saying, like walking and working out and getting outside and doing all of that. And I think the other really important thing is that, again, it comes down to that alignment, pre-alignment, just like Mary Kay. I asked so many questions before we get started. If you're going to spend a lot of time writing a deep emotional, and especially if there's trauma involved too, as an author, you need to have processed that before you come to write the book. The book writing is a cathartic process, but if you're looking to make a published book out of it and work with a ghostwriter, you need to process that yourself so that you don't end up trauma dumping into the book, because then it becomes about you and not about the reader, and then it ends up being not good for anybody. And so I think there's that level of the author has processed it. And as ghostwriters, we can make it comfortable for everybody too, right? Like we can probe, but also say, I'm going to probe here, or can I probe? And then like, even like one of my coach was like, sometimes I tell people like, let's pick a word. And if you're feeling like it's getting too heavy, just say the word and I'll know, like, let's not touch it, like watermelon or something like that. And then we move on. So
I love watermelon.
Yeah.
This is just all such great info. I think I still feel like, I'm fairly new to this whole writing and publishing thing, right? And so when I listen to other experienced writers and people in the industry speak, it helps me think about some of my practices and where maybe I can improve, or maybe where I could pull back a little bit. And so, again, this conversation is so much more than for people who are thinking of ghostwriting a book. Because, I'm thinking too that when I do meet them on Zoom, I have them on Zoom small and I'm reading, but I'm also looking as well for their reactions, right? That helps me with the story development part. And occasionally I have to ask somebody, are you sure this is something you want to put in? Not because you shouldn't feel it, but because I don't want to say it doesn't fit either, but I can see where people have come with trauma and it's unresolved. And I find myself a lot of times almost like a therapist, because 75% of the people I work with are new writers. So they're not only being guided through the writing process and understand nothing about the publishing process, they've never even sat down and put a paragraph together about their life. And so now as they're writing, we choose to be more than our diagnosis, or my story is my legacy, all of these things start to surface. Right. And so now a 1 hour review could turn into 3 hours easily. I've learned how to rein that in, and I've had to, because there's a part of me that loves what I do and the impact, as you ladies do. And there's the part of you that's also a business person. And if you don't do your business things the way you should, you're not going to be in business helping anyone, and certainly not yourself. So again, this conversation is so valuable to me as well. I just want you guys to know that. I think Leslie and Felipe had a similar question, which I'm just going to paraphrase. Is AI, or how is AI, if it is, affecting your business in any way?
Yeah, I can start with that one.
I'll let you start.
So I found the effect that I found that AI has been having is a lot of people are reaching out to me saying, hey, and I'm not faulting them for this, right? Like, it's the world we live in, and that's what they know. And the book world's confusing. And AI has been sold as it is a good tool for certain things, but people will come and say, I've written my book using AI. It's 85, 90% of the way done. And so I would love for you to, it really just needs to be a little more cohesive and some human voice infused in it. And that means it's not 85 to 90% of the way done, because as we've talked about, the voice is one of at least for me, one of the most challenging parts. And so to try to take something that's already been written on the page and is part robot voice and part your voice, and then try to pick that apart and then infuse human without doing my own. And then often ghostwriting so much more than just writing.
Yeah, and I think it's so important as well that, I like what you shared about what they need to think about to work with you. Um, Transparency upfront, setting those expectations. I think at the back end for the outcome for every industry, but especially the industry we're in, that's a service oriented, can really get the communication across outcomes. That is so important. What about you, Mary Kay?
I think the same as Jamie. Like the work to put a book together, like the real work happens before the writing. Not that the writing isn't real work. It definitely is, whether I'm ghostwriting or helping someone to coaching them through writing their own. I'm finding for me, I get less questions on, can you humanize my AI manuscript, which I have started saying no, because a couple of months ago I would have been like, yeah, I'm all over that. But as things start to change, I'm just not comfortable with that. And I think Leslie had a comment in here somewhere that said, when you're feeding like
AI feeding
AI's
into your
training,
expertise.
yeah, AI's training on your stuff now. The value that we bring as ghostwriters and book coaches is that so AI can generate. If you just want a book of words, no problem, have at it. But we can help, us ghostwriters can help you discern what information stays in, what information has to be taken out, and maybe become another book.
Yes.
They can expand on stuff, but we're going to help with the structure. We're going to keep the reader in mind, the reader journey in mind. And is the person prompting really going to remember to go back and say, oh, does this chapter 8 line up to the reader journey we agreed upon 5 days ago when we started writing chapter 1? So I
Right.
think we will bring that process and that structure optimized. Yeah, I think my answer might change in 6 months from now. I don't know. Things are changing.
Yeah, things change all the time. And I think
Yeah.
to add on to that too, because that was all great points. And it's also AI doesn't know what it doesn't know about you. It only knows what you've told it. And so, and the same is true for us, but as humans, we can ask different questions from general human experiences to pull information out. And then the other thing is, I mean, you were talking about essentially boundaries, right? Like in ghostwriting, boundaries are one of the most important skills that you can have because of how out of control and out of scope things can get. But along with that is even within scope, challenging the author on things and doing it kindly and directly, but saying, I hear you, but a best practice is this, or have you thought about this, or blah blah blah. And most of the time those conversations go totally fine, but that's not something you're going to get from an AI either, because ultimately the author wants the best product either, and so the challenge is often missing as well.
Oh my goodness. I'm like, my legs shaking under the table because I'm enjoying the conversation and I don't want to be like swinging in my chair. Um, so I'm going to ask this question and share, a little bit about a client that Leslie and I were working on. And so the manuscript came to her and it really was at a point where um, it was more than line editing, right? The stories were all that everything
Yeah.
was disjointed, everything was, and so do you find, because I know you guys start, well, from the very beginning and like a blank page, but when somebody sends you whatever they've written, right, and you're helping to rewrite it, do you find yourself, or is line editing a part of what you have to do? I mean, you're not going to hand them a manuscript with, you know, misspelled words and stuff like that, but is it in a way, are you also like line editing their work, or you line editing your own work alongside writing it?
I would say it's more of in that case, if someone comes with a manuscript like that, it's more from our perspective, given our expertise, more of a developmental edit
Yeah.
where we're
Yeah.
not going through line by line with sentence structure or proofing or anything like that, but we're saying this might be better served here instead of here. This should be cut. The transition here could be better. Things like that is where our skills are best put to use. And so when I finish with clients, even we're so in the book by the time we're done with it when we're writing it. So if someone comes to us with a manuscript, it's easy for us to do that. But I am not the developmental editor for my own projects. And a lot of times publishers will skip developmental editing for ghostwriters because we've been there, done that several times, and it will go straight to line editing and proofing. But I don't edit my own work because I can't objectively do it at that point. And so I help connect clients to great publishers like yourself, and then I let you guys take care of what level of editing you think is appropriate because I'm no longer objective at that point.
That is so awesome because after we spoke a few times, we agreed to let the client know that this is not at the point of line editing and he needs to work with a book coach. So again, you guys are reinforcing some of the things that I'm going with on gut doing this. And so again, it's very appreciated. Mary Kay, you want to answer that one too? Or
I think so. What was the question? Maybe I think I lost track of the question.
are you, I guess she kind of answered it and you were nodding, which is you're more like you're not really a line editor, you're more developmental in the stage when you receive a manuscript.
Yeah, definitely not a line editor. There's lots of great professionals out there, that can do that piece. And I think, my job as the ghostwriter is to go through that pre-work, that upfront work to do the developmental structure, so that when you do hand it to a line editor, they can follow along, they can, go through the whole process, basically make it easy for them. Or even if they bring in a full-on structural or developmental editor, it'll be easy for them as well.
So, it actually makes me think to myself, as this publishing company expands, I've taken on other uh, steps to the whole publishing A to Z thing,
Mhm.
right? Because everything from cover to promotion. So one of the things I do in my co-author meet and greet is I do give writing tips. I do give some structure, if you will.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of leeway because, a lot of them are first time writers and I just want them to throw up on the page first, then go back and take a look at it for like flow and everything else. But it almost makes me think that maybe I want to bring in a book coach for maybe 15 minutes to talk with the co-authors. They would be able, because you guys are doing a part of what I do, but so much deeper than I do. Like I can only handle a chapter at a time, and I could only edit one chapter a day. And even after that, I can't do more than like 3 a week because it's just too much. It becomes too much. Um, and so I wonder if something like that would be beneficial. I wonder. I think that it would be absolutely. Um, I'm gonna have to reach out to two of you for something else. Anyway,
University coming up.
Yeah.
love it.
Just full circle to our beginning of our session here.
Yeah, if you want to take this further. And so actually what I did do is I have like all these different chats with all the different books and I dropped the link for today's show in all of them. And I said, listen, if you're contemplating writing a book and you have no clue where to start, you could come to me. That's great, but I'm going to send you to someone because that's not what I do. So come look at this show tonight and learn. The hour's flown, of course. And
Wow.
something keeps popping up on screen because somebody wants me to ask you guys. She must be interested in services. Are you guys offering as ghostwriters a discount at Halloween?
If they come through you, then yes. Sure.
I echo that. That's a great idea.
I like that. I like that, guys. So you heard it here. If you reach out to these ladies and are able to secure some sort of a contract with them by Halloween, not saying your book's publishing in Halloween, okay? I'm just saying
No.
it's gonna be down the line. But maybe if you can meet and seal a contract with them, there may be a little bit of discount because you've seen them here. Awesome. All right, so 8 minutes to go. I have like a ton more questions, but why don't each of you take a moment to share what the heck's going on with you, where people can find you, you know, anything that you feel that you didn't get to share that you really wanted to talk about. Take 4 minutes each and let's do this.
I'll let Jamie go first.
We're both like, what the heck is going on with me? Great question. I mostly hang out as far as I'll go backwards. I mostly hang out on LinkedIn. So if anybody wants to connect on LinkedIn, that's where I am. I do have an Instagram. I hardly use it professionally anymore, but it is there. My website is just jamiedykstra.com. And so you can get to learn a lot about different services and the way I work. And I have a blog on there if anybody's curious about. I know we didn't get to answer all questions. I talk a lot about ghostwriting stuff on there. And yeah, working on a couple books right now, and always looking to connect with other amazing humans on their projects. Like I said, I'm mostly in the business leadership space. And I like to work with purpose-driven people. And I think sometimes people mistake that for it has to be like a nonprofit thing or something like that. Like anything can be purpose-driven if it's trying to make the world a better place. If you have a finance framework that you think would be really awesome for people, like great, that's making the world a better place. That's essentially how I want to serve people and what I do and why I love ghostwriting so much. And yeah, so that's what's going on in my world.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, please, in the comments of the show to drop your contact information, drop your profile link, your website, and things like that. What about you, Mary Kay?
What am I doing? Well, I'm about to start 2 book projects. Well, one isn't still a maybe, so I'll say one and a maybe. Both very different, so I'm going to have to use my boundaries creatively so I can keep distinguishing between the 2 things, plus writing my own book, which is also different from those 2. One is ghostwriting, one is more co-writing, which is a little bit of a different relationship and a little more touch points. So basically co-writing, because I see you frowning, Nick, is
listen, I'm a very expressive face. Sorry.
Yeah. So am I.
Writing.
So that one is where, we're both doing the writing. So we'll assign each other things. So they will do one part, I will do another part, we'll come together, we'll put it together, and eventually we'll do a pass to make sure that it sounds like the author's voice and not my voice. So yeah, a couple new things coming in. I'm doing a lot more photography, wildlife photography, that is, and nature photography. So I actually closed my formal MK Ranger photography business because I don't want to do events anymore, and I don't want to do portraits anymore. And this year has been, and it's part of my own writing process, is the year of subtraction and the year of unburdening. It's the Chinese New Year of the fire horse, right? Unburden, let go. So that when I did my inventory, that business was one thing I thought, you know what, I need to let that go and then focus on the internal stuff, what feeds me internally. So helping other people with their books and that wildlife photography.
I find it interesting because both of you mentioned something, I guess, about part of what you do in the process, and you mentioned subtraction. And then Jamie talked about, I can't remember, maybe it was Mary Kay, about when you're going through it and something else needs to be a whole book. And I think I could talk to you guys for hours because for the very first time ever, I had someone handle like double the amount of words. And I love this person actually, and I wanted to read it, and I did. And I had to kind of decide where to say maybe you want to end here and tie it back into the theme. Because as I was going, I was like, this is a whole book.
Yeah.
And not even on this theme, on a completely different topic. So, you know, I, it gives me things to think about within my space. Because I always love being able to pass on opportunities and connect people. Because I can't, not that I can't, I don't want to do everything. Who has time for that? I want a life. And so like everybody has their thing and their niche, and this was such a helpful conversation in so many ways. And I know Jamie is a golden retriever fan. Am I right?
I am golden
I
retrievers and black labs. My black lab's he's sleeping in his bed right next to me.
Do you have two dogs?
My parents have a golden, but I live close to them, so I
Nice.
claim it as my own.
Nice. I love it.
Oh my goodness. Ladies, thank you so much. It's been a really great conversation. Mary Kay, do the same. Go drop your contact information, please, in
I
the
will.
comments. And any questions that did come through that we weren't able to see, we're going to go back and take some time to answer those as well. Do reach out to Mary Kay and Jamie if you have any interest in ghostwriting a book. I trust these ladies, and yes, I am completely referring them. All right. I'm going to bring you guys backstage. I'll see you right.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks, Nick.
That was such a fun conversation. A little bit different than what I would typically do on the person behind the pen. Usually we have co-authors on or book launch days. We are going to definitely be doing more episodes like this where we are addressing other parts of the whole book publishing process. Um, the goal is not to get people to come and work with Guiding Brilliant Writers. You we will decide if we meet if that is something that will work for both of us. The goal is to help you own your story. Whatever that story is, it's for you to know that it's okay that you don't know. All right. There are people out here to serve you, to help you know what you need to do to get started. So do not let not knowing be a reason to not own your story and reach that goal if it is a dream to publish a book. So, with that, we will see you next week. And we are going to be doing the first round of co author meet and greets of the Men of Men, Money, and Mental Health. So, do stay tuned, and that event will be posted soon. Have a great night, everyone.